Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Xerxes Spencer, Manager of Fellowship Programs here at the National Endowment for Democracy. On behalf of NED's International Forum for Democratic Studies, I'm pleased to welcome everyone to today's presentation, Promoting Democracy Through the Performing Arts in Pakistan Towards a Sufi Theatre, featuring Reagan Fassel Democracy Fellow Shahid Nadeem. As many of you know, those of us who work within NED's fellowship programs have the privilege of hosting some of the world's most dedicated democracy activists, scholars, and journalists to conduct independent research here at the NED. Within this group, our speaker today stands out for his extraordinary work in promoting peace and pluralism through the performing arts in Pakistan. Shahid is an acclaimed playwright who has been at the forefront of the campaign for human rights and justice in Pakistan since the 1960s. For his activism, he has been imprisoned by various military regimes, exiled for a period of time, and adopted by Amnesty International as a prisoner of conscience. Since the mid-1990s, when he returned to Pakistan, he has served as executive director and chairperson of Ajoka Theatre, Pakistan's leading theatre company, in which capacity he has written, directed, and produced plays on a wide range of human rights themes, including corruption, gender violence, minority rights, and resistance to terrorism. His plays have been translated to a number of languages, including English, and their popular appeal has shown that democracy and human rights enjoy broad-based support in the Muslim world. In his remarks today, Shahid will tell us the remarkable story of Ajoka and how he and his group have been promoting peace through the performing arts over the past 3 decades. He will then explore the idea of a Sufi theatre, a form of entertainment that utilizes Sufi poetry, devotional music and dance, and the storytelling style of Sufi saints to convey messages of peace that challenge more oppressive and extremist interpretations of Islam. Shahid will show that there is no contradiction between Islam and the performing arts, and that the sectarian, religious, and social divisions can be overcome by an inclusive, bridge-building, and culturally rooted Sufi theatre. We'll now turn the floor over to Shahid, who will speak for about 40 minutes, followed by Q&A. For those of you on Twitter, you can follow this presentation and contribute to the conversation by using the hashtag NEDEvents or by following the forum at Think Democracy and the endowment at NED Democracy. If you've not already done so, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. And finally, let me take this opportunity to thank all the many NET staff, especially Research Associate Sarah Amin, who have been instrumental in organizing today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Xerxes, and thank you, everybody who have been brave enough to come to such an unusual topic. Story of Ajoka Theatre and our experience or our hope that we'll be able to develop a form which can benefit from the cultural tradition called Sufism in South Asia. So I'll basically give some historical overview, the political and cultural context in which Pakistan came into being 66 years ago, and the endemic problems and challenges which it had from the very beginning. Then I'll refer to Ajoka Theatre's own work, which we started in 1984. So for 30 years, we have been doing what we call theater for social change, linking traditional form with contemporary content. And Then we'll focus on the Sufi culture, the importance of Sufism and the impact it has on Pakistani culture, the cultural heritage, which is so integrally related to Sufism. And try to see how the performance side of Sufism has influenced the Pakistani performing arts or can influence. And I'll give some examples of the expressions of Sufi culture in Pakistan, and also from Ajoka's own landmark plays based on Sufi themes. And then maybe a little bit of international context in which we can learn from the spiritual experiences of performing artists in other societies. And then we'll conclude with the possibilities and the potential of a Sufi theater. So when Pakistan was created in 1947, from United India ruled by the British, and we had two wings, West Pakistan and East Pakistan, which later on in 1971 became Bangladesh. And now West Pakistan, along with the territory of disputed territory of Kashmir, and that is what is left of Pakistan. And there was in the beginning the founding fathers, they thought of land for the Muslims of India to protect their political, social, economic, cultural rights, which they thought would be threatened by a predominant Hindu majority because of the clash of civilization of South Asian kind. They thought that they are talking about Indian Muslims or Muslim majority areas in India. And the founder, Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Jinnah, he actually said in his famous speech of 11th August, after the creation of Pakistan, he said that Muslims will cease to be Muslims and Hindus will cease to be Hindus, not in the religious sense, but as citizens, because they will all be equal. So they thought that using the slogan of Islam to show that Hindus and Muslims are two separate nations will work. And it worked for some time. It created a certain passion and certain motivation among the Muslims, and they then created this new country. But most of our problems which we are facing now actually lie right there when the word Islam was used for political purposes, and they didn't realize that if the genie of Islamic fundamentalism is brought out of the bottle, then it will not go in. So this was highlighted during 1977 when General Ziaul Haq took over. And he was different from, we had our share of military rulers, Ayub Khan and Yahya Khan, or General Skandar Mirza, but Ziaul Haq was different because he was not just the commander-in-chief, the supreme commander, but he was also the president of the country through martial law, of course, and after he executed the popularly elected Prime Minister Bhutto, but also he was a fundamentalist. So his ideological basis and his power as the head of the country and head of the army, that was a lethal combination. And that was a time when the US and the West and the Arab states, they wanted Soviet Union to be defeated in Afghanistan. So Ziaul Haq used that opportunity, and he got lots and lots of money for aiding the Mujahids in Afghanistan and weapons. And he also used this opportunity to empower and arm and finance Islamic extremist groups and give them an acceptable and a respectable status. They were given positions in the establishment, in the media, in the political setup created by General Ziaul Haq in the campuses, and lots of dollars and weapons. And this really created a ground in which the Islamization of General Ziaul Haq, which was restricted to political repression like flogging and especially brutal beatings of women who were opposing, but also laid the foundation of later day Talibanization. So when Talib meaning students, they were sent with the help of Pakistani, with the connivance of Pakistani authorities and the religious parties, they were sent to Afghanistan to fill the void created by the Soviet defeat and defeat of the Soviet supporters. So these Talibs, they controlled Afghanistan, and then the real color, the real ideology of Taliban, how harsh and how retrogressive it was, it became clear when women were executed and Bamiyan Buddhas were destroyed, and they started hosting Al-Qaeda. So once they were removed from Afghanistan, then most of the fighters who were fighting against the Soviet enemy, they came back along with Afghan Taliban and Chechens and Uzbeks and Yemenis and Libyans. They all came to the tribal area of Pakistan where they already had been based or had supporters. And there gradually, with their interaction with Pakistani sectarian elements and extreme right element, emerged the entity now called Pakistani Taliban. So now for about 2 decades, we have been facing the threat of Talibanization, and it is no longer restricted to the tribal areas where they are fighting Pakistan army and they control certain chunks of land. They are intervening in Afghanistan as well as conducting attacks on military and civilian targets in Pakistan. But they have also now their agents and their friends in the big cities, and they are trying to influence culture, influence politics, influence media by various methods, by directly threatening artists and media people and politicians, but at the same time also using their clout and their force of suicide bombers. They are influencing politicians and developing a strong base in major Pakistani cities. So this is a threat we face now. And apart from the civil society or the secular political parties, one major force which Taliban also have recognized is a challenge for them is the madrasa culture. Madrasa culture pitted against the culture of shrines. So this is the situation we are facing now, but Pakistan has not been a society which has at any point supported extremism of any kind. It is a narrator of thousands-year-old Indus Valley culture and performing arts, theater, music, dance, and other fine arts. There is a very rich heritage which we have, and we still are proud of it, and people of Pakistan relate to that. That is actually what is their true identity. But the establishment, religious establishment, and the conservative sections of political establishment, they are trying to deny them their natural affiliation and identification with their culture, and using different methods of indoctrination and coercion to deprive them of their cultural heritage. So one form is like this Hafza Brigade in Islamabad a few years back, when Red Mosque, a mosque very close to the diplomatic enclave and all important buildings, was taken over by extremists, and it was turned into a den of terrorists. And also they raised this force of young burqa-clad baton-holding women who would conduct raids and abduct people and burn shops and impose their way of life on the people of the capital city of the country. At the same time, they attacked the shrines, and this is actually the famous shrine of Data Darbar, which is regarded as the most important and revered saint in Pakistan, and also in the rest of the Muslim world. And no one thought that Data Darbar will ever be attacked. Someone will be so crazy to attack a shrine which actually gives such comfort to people and which has no political message of Data Sahib didn't have any kind of controversy associated with it. So this is a conflict which is developing and which we find very interesting. And these attacks on shrines have continued. And even now, in the last few weeks, there have been several attacks on shrines in Karachi, and people who are going to shrines, they have been randomly killed. So this is something which actually is increasing rather than the Taliban and their friends being discouraged by the psychological, emotional, and spiritual suffering these attacks have caused to people who have such strong association with these shrines. So in this context, we started work in Pakistan as Ajoka Theatre. Ajoka means contemporary. And for the last 3 decades, we have been doing theatre, not Sufi theatre as such, but theatre which has a political relevance, but which also relates to our culture and our tradition, and we benefit from our heritage of folk theatre and folk music and folk dance. And I'll give you some glimpses of the work.
1983 was a year of severe political repression by General Ziaul Haq's military government. It was also a year when some youngsters from Lahore decided to set up a theatre group committed to social change. It was named Ajoka, the Punjabi word meaning contemporary. Ajoka's maiden production was held in May 1984. The play, Badal Sarkar's Juloos, a bold political satire, received an enthusiastic response from an entertainment-starved audience. This encouraged the founders of Ajoka to commit them to do such theatre on a regular basis.
कानून की मोटी किताब लाओ बैठूंगा हाँ कानून पर बैठने का कितना मजा आता है
Since 1984, Ajoka has regularly produced original plays on contemporary social issues, ranging from women's rights, environment, religious intolerance and peace.
हकीम जी इन्हें साडा जीना हराम कर देते हैं।
ओ पिछा तन्नू मैं टंगा।
ओ गोडे तेरे ना पड़ना।
ओ दमा तन्नू मैं बीबी।
सत मारा मैं तेनु गुज्जी।
ओए तू चन्ना कियो जिन्ना।
तू तेरे ना मैनू किन्ना।
ओए क्या रब दे कोलो डर ओए।
ओए जित्थों निकले आ सही मार ओए।
ओ चुप हो जा पस्तू बना।
एदा पसंद है ते जा तू जा ओदे नाल। हाँ हाँ
But Ajoka strives to address these serious issues in a form which is artistic and effective. It also uses folk theatre and indigenous art forms in its productions.
These are plays which address current problems like gender issues. This play is about search of water and the control of resources by feudal and spiritual lord Pir, but all presented in the folk theatre form. This form is called Swang theatre, which is really ancient folk theatre form in Pakistan. Then the next extract I'm showing you, it's a play based on Bertolt Brecht's play called The Resistible Rise of Arthur Rowe, adapted to Pakistani condition and regarded by banned by Pakistani authorities because they thought it was not a foreign play. It was written about them and they could recognize the characters in the play.
खबर में बहुत जगह होती है सारा का सारा शहर समा सकता है इसमें
छुप छुप के हम जिएंगे कब तक रुक रुक के हम चलेंगे कब तक
कहीं मर्द ने
Like these plays are like this one is play about honor killing in the last extract. So we realize that when we are addressing social issues, contemporary political issues, wherever we make any reference through music or poetry to the Sufi cultural heritage, suddenly the response from the audience is multiplied by people who had no familiar association with theater as such, who regarded theater as something foreign, something alienating. But whenever it came to Sufism and Sufi cultural expression, suddenly their eyes lit up and they became involved. So this is what made us think of the heritage of Sufi culture. So Sufism, as perhaps you know, that it's as old as Islam itself, and during the times of Prophet Muhammad, there were people sitting on a bench, and they were called people of the bench, who were meditating and developing the Sufi or Islamic mystical ideas. And they were called people of the bench, or Ahle Sufa, and the word Sufi came from that. There are others who think that this comes from cotton, because the Sufis wore simple cotton clothes, and cotton is called Suf, and from that came the word Sufi. But they have been there all the time, in the worst possible times for the Islamic empire and for the best possible times, and there have been conflicts, and there have been executions, people who are like Al-Hallaj, who were executed for saying, I am the truth. So, but the Sufi message spread, and it developed different forms in different regions. And in South Asia, it developed a different form with interaction with Hindu mystics and with Buddhists and other expressions of mystical and spiritual culture in South Asia. But most important thing in the Sufi culture has been its egalitarian spirit. So where everyone is equal, everyone is welcome. There is no distinction of caste and creed or religion or gender or age or wealth or power. And its approach has always been secular in its expression, but also in its teachings. Sufis have always been more than welcome to borrow or to learn from teachings of other religions. And sometimes you see references like word by word lifted, you can say, in the present day, in the copyright-oriented word. But in those days, they were all one. They didn't consider that these mystical teachings or spiritual teachings belong to one particular religion or one particular group. So they were eclectic in nature, and also they provided the people who were obviously being unjustly treated by their rulers. That was the system. So the emperors and kings and their henchmen will do injustices, and the people would come to the Sufis with their complaints and with their frustrations, and Sufis sometimes would solve their problems because they had the political clout. They will tell the emperor to come and come to the shrine or come to the Sufi center and solve the problems, or if not, at least give them spiritual satisfaction and give expression to their dreams and their frustrations and their desires through their poetry and through the teachings. So this was something very important, and something which no other sort of center of power was providing. So this is how Sufis developed this kind of popular appeal. So there were like thousands and thousands of people from all religions going to the Sufis out of free will, while the kings and emperors will only have the paid soldiers and fighting wars with each other. And this popular and democratic spirit and the passion behind spiritual association with God based on not on temptation, not on fear, but purely on love. So this is what gave Sufi culture the command, the force which it has till today. So one important factor of this culture of Sufis is the ecstasy. So it really provides, if you go to the melas and festivals in Pakistan, you see how people who are totally oppressed and downtrodden and totally drowned in their problems, in their economic problems, in their social, in their personal problems, how they come to the shrines and be free and express themselves freely, and also be a part of a community and re-establish their identity, which is denied to them otherwise in society. So this kind of culture is really a big force in Pakistan. And one expression of that is Sufi singers. Now, Abda Parveen became popular as a Sufi singer during the times of Ziaul Haq, when Ziaul Haq was providing a different version of Islam, oppressive and narrow-minded and more formalistic. Here was Abda Parveen doing just the opposite and singing the songs of Sufis who had rejected formal and oppressive form of religion, and then a woman, female singer, singing in public to thousands of people and really inspiring them. So just a glimpse of Abda Parveen. Destroy the mosque, destroy the temple, but don't hurt the heart. That's where God lives. And of course, Nusrat Fateh Ali, who popularized the devotional form of Qawwali music all over the world, but he started as a Qawwali singer from a Qawwal family, and his passion and his selection of poetry just showed the potential which Qawwali music or devotional music have, the subversive element against the authorities and against the imposition of a different form of religion. Oh, sorry. So now this is the other form of religion or devotional music, where you see the participation by the people. So this is an important and very significant part, how important it is for people to be an active participant of the whole experience. It is not just singers performing and being very much involved, but the audience as well. And the audience includes all kinds of people, not only youngsters, not only sort of liberal or people who enjoy dancing, but people who are considered pious and considered respectable and in terms of age also, not, they're past the age of dancing, but when it comes to Sufi sessions, they just forget if you're old or young, if you're a woman or man, if you are from any religion. Some example. And then an image which I myself was surprised to see, image of thousands of devotees in the villages, the peasants mostly, at a shrine, at a ceremony, along with hundreds of women dancing freely, rather wildly. And this is Pakistan under threat of Taliban. No one would believe that hundreds of women would be dancing openly. And in fact, the old man, the saint in the middle, he announces at one point, he says, sisters, mothers, dance. These are actual words which he says, Damal Pao. DBO pano damal pao. So this is something which we don't realize exists right now in Pakistan. So this actually then developed into a form of dance which became like professional dancers who would go in the streets and dance. So this spontaneity and this spiritual experience in the shrines also became a form of dance in public. So these are the like important elements of this kind of devotional performance. It is liberating, and it frees you from your everyday existence, which is not very pleasant. And it's equalizing. It's there you feel you're equal, and there is no class difference. There is no caste difference, and it's rooted in local culture, so you can all relate to it. And there are stories of love stories, and there are like historical stories. So you can relate to centuries of your rich cultural tradition. It is non-sectarian, and importantly, it is participatory. So this is the form of devotional performances which attracted us to explore further. And that's what we did in two plays on two great Sufis, Bulla and Dara. They are very significant in this respect. So Bulle Shah was a great Sufi poet, and most of the Qawwali singers, they love to recite his poetry, and real iconoclast and real opponent of this oppressive form of religion. Just some glimpses of Bulle Shah's play. So we are using the mystical dance, the ecstatic dance into a theatre form, and using along with the Qawwali, which was the first time a Qawwali singer was, a Qawwali group was used in a theatre context. So it's a total rejection of the existing norms. So he's saying that they address themselves mostly as women. So say I am a woman, but I will really be a woman when I sleep with my lover in public. So only then I'll be the true woman. So real defines. So, and then this is another play called Dara, based on the story of the Mughal prince Dara Shikoh and his brother Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb is the role model for the extremist Muslim politicians in Pakistan, and including Taliban. And Dara was a Sufi and a poet and an artist and practitioner of comparative religion. He translated some very important texts from Hindu mysticism for the first time into Persian. From there they became available to the rest of the world. So 300 years ago they had a battle of war of succession, which Aurangzeb won, and he got Dara executed. And then Dara's name was more or less eliminated from history. So we have tried to reclaim and rediscover Dara as a version of Islam which he presented, which is for love and humanism and harmony and tolerance and interest in or willingness to accept other religions as part of your heritage. So this is one of our very successful plays, and we use Qawwali here again. This is a naked Sufi, Sarmat, who challenges Aurangzeb, the much robed, heavily robed emperor. And it's to be seen how people relate to the one who has no clothes, but who is defiant and truthful, and one who has too many clothes, but who is a hypocrite. this is a celebration when Dara Shikoh, the prince, is executed. So they are celebrating his martyrdom. And you will be reminded of whirling dervishes or ecstatic dancers at the shrines. This is what we try to use in the theatre context. So these are some lessons from the Sufi plays that how you can use the Sufi stories which have their element of drama and tragedy and also sometimes romantic affairs, not like Romeo and Juliet or Heer or Ranja, but the master and the disciple, their relationship is also very, very passionate, maybe more passionate than the relationship of a man and a woman in love or man and a man in love. But for Sufis, it didn't matter. For them, they defied all the conventions and they said that love cannot be separated. So whatever you love yourself, your beloved, or you love God, it has the same emotional force and it is sacred. So these elements of passionate relationship gives us a very interesting dramatic opportunity to develop the story of a Sufi. So like in one case, the Sufi the master is unhappy with the disciple and the disciple is shattered. Then he has to travel all the way to a shrine of his master's master. And there they say that you learn how to dance, you learn how to sing. Only then you can appease your master because your Sufi master loves dancing, he loves music. So he learns how to dance, he learns how to sing from a dancing girl. And then he is able to appease his master. So there are so many very interesting, very exciting, dramatic stories, only you have to have an eye for it. And then also the Sufis were able to, these plays, we were able to relate to people from the villages, people from the traditional conservative background, and they were able to relate to our plays, our Sufi plays instantly, along with our general audience, because everyone is familiar with the Sufi stories, everyone respects them. So we were able to bridge the gap between the conservatives and the liberals or the city folk and the rural people through these plays. And the message of these plays was obviously also very much appreciated in the rest of the world. So we performed these plays in India and we were able to make such important connections with the audience in India because they totally related to the message of the Sufis. So these also we were able to discuss some very sensitive, taboo subjects through Sufis, like the issue of blasphemy law or the issue of exploitation of religion or peace with India or common heritage with India, non-Islamic heritage of Pakistan. All these issues, when presented through these Sufi plays, when a Sufi is embracing a Sikh leader who is supposed to be the worst enemy of Muslims, Banda Singh Bairagi and Bulle Shah, their interaction. So you're able to break many taboos or barriers through with the kind help of the Sufis. So this is the kind of potential which we saw. And then we looked outside Pakistan and we realized that there have been similar experiences in various performing arts in other Muslim countries, and the most obvious one is the whirling dervishes. So here there are two important things. One is the message of Sufism, how it is presented through dance which is regarded as un-Islamic or which was banned by many sort of Muslim clerics. And in Iran it was banned for a long time, and in some other societies. In Pakistan, dancing by women was prohibited for a very long time. But here we were shown that dance is a sacred art through which you can communicate with your creator and with your society in such a noble way. So this was very helpful for us in Pakistan to prove our point that dance is nothing, there's nothing wrong with dance. It's how you use dance, what message you have, and how you present dance in an aesthetic and in a culturally rich way. And similarly, we noticed that apart from that, there are some other societies where we have, they call it dance or not. Like in Iran, they don't call it dance. They call it harkat-e-mawzu, nice movements. And they, in brochure, they have nice movement, not choreography, but nice movement by so-and-so. And they call them harkat-e-mawzu, but it is still dance. In Chechnya, I don't know what they call, but you see what they do there. This is a zikr or chanting in Chechnya, and you don't get such images from Chechnya, you get different kinds of images. And then in South Africa, which is like a center of conservative Islam these days, the Muslims there are ultra-conservative, but here also they can't, in Africa you can't stay away from movements. So the rhythm, the sound, the music, the movement of the body is something which is essential if you want to achieve some kind of spiritual uplift. So these were some images, but then the most interesting was Iran. Tazia theater is a new form which has developed from the Shiite tradition of mourning for the great tragedy of Karbala, where the grandson and the family and friends of the Prophet, they were very brutally killed in a prolonged process, like for 10 days the killings went on. And the Shiites and also other sects in Islam, they observe and they remember the tragedy of Karbala, the great tragedy, and they have processions and they have recitation sessions, very emotionally charged, where they beat their breast and they cry. So it's something quite dramatic. But in Iran in recent years, it has developed into a theater form, and just a glimpse will show you. This is Tazia theater of Iran. And some of these characters are actually very sacred personalities which generally you are not supposed to represent in theater or through painting. So Tazia Theatre was quite a surprise for us, because we didn't realize that it has developed into a proper art form, theater form, and hundreds of plays, stories not only of Karbala or the great tragedy, but also from Bible and from Quran. Other stories have been developed, and it goes on throughout the year, not just for 10 days of mourning. So all these examples made us realize that, firstly, performing arts is nothing un-Islamic about performing arts, and it has happened in Syria, in Turkey, in Iran, in South Africa, in India, in Pakistan. Dance is an integral part of religious experience or mystical or spiritual experience. Music, the force of music, the way it really frees you from all your inhibitions, we realize that it is very important. Sufi shrines, the popular appeal of Sufi shrines, you have seen women and men dancing, and in a conservative society, and that was, there were images from Punjab, which is, and certain part of central Punjab, which is very conservative. But still, you could see that the shrine culture, the kind of impact it is having. And then also, we used the devotional art forms, like the play on Bulla actually had a very strong appeal for the present times. We didn't have to say it, but it was very obvious when he was challenging the clergy and challenging the rulers of his times. The message was very clear where the Sufi Bulla stands in present context, and people they have no problem in receiving that message. So even if the message is political, it is for a democratic change, it is for a better society, a just society. The devotional arts can spiritually as well as in terms of content can play an important role. And also through these devotional arts we can touch and reach out to other cultures. So we saw the similar experiences of spiritually oriented performing arts or theater in other societies. The black church in the US and the Christian church fused with the native Indian ceremonies in South America. It was quite remarkable to see how they are able to use and learn from each other and develop a system, develop a way of spiritual uplift by learning from each other. And in South Asia it has been happening all the time, and the Hindus and Sikhs and Jains and Muslims, they have been interacting all the time. You go to a shrine in India, I think a majority will be non-Muslims, and coming to a Muslim shrine and believing in them and praying there and paying their respects. So I think this kind of impact and the role of women, while women are not allowed to go into the mosque or to mixed madrasas or mixed schools, but when you go to a shrine or to a ceremony, then you see them openly, like at the shrine of Shah Hussain or at the shrine of Bulleh Shah. You see them dancing and singing and expressing themselves freely. So this is the context in which we have been thinking of developing a form of theater which uses the forms of Sufi performing arts like dance and music and qawwali, but also the content, the poetry and the message and the stories of the great Sufis, how they can be highlighted and how they can convey a contemporary message. So a message which has the cultural appeal, which has a spiritual appeal and also a political appeal. So this is the kind of theater which we think can be developed, learning from our experience with these two plays which I have mentioned, Dara and Bulla, and also some other examples where totally secular themes, and we were able to use Sufi music and Sufi poetry and Sufi references to great effect. So this is the kind of theater which will have the dramatic appeal, which will have the music, the forceful music of qawwali or Sufiana singing, and which will also have contemporary message. And there are like various, speaking in a more concrete sense, so many devices which we use. For example, the lamps and the ceremonies which we have used in the play, like when Bulleh Shah goes to learn singing, learn dancing from a dancing girl, then there is a whole elaborate ceremony to make him a disciple of the dancing girl. So we have turned it upside down. Instead of the Sufi master, he's going to a dancing girl who's supposed to be of much lower stature, and also dancing girl, which is something which Muslim society would not sort of allow Sufi to become a student. But this is how it developed and people accepted it. So it had a gender issue also. We wanted to show that dancing or being a dancing woman is not something which Sufi will reject. And similarly, in another play on Tara, here the spirit of Tara is going to different religions. Like there is a Sikh, there is a Hindu scholar, there is a Christian priest, and there is a Muslim Sufi. And he's learning from them and then developing his own ideas about religion or about how to live in a society with different religions. So So these were different devices which we used, and a lot of importance for celebration and ceremonies, which immediately people can relate to, and also some magical happenings, some happenings which religion is associated with sometimes, things which are not realistic, but there are stories and myths associated, and if you use those myths and those stories, then you can convey a message which is beyond just a polemical message. So this is the kind of theater which we thought we'll be able to develop, but there were some challenges which we thought we should be careful that the message should be not sort of against the thrust of time, and it should have a political message, it should have a democratic spirit, it should have popular appeal, and it should debate ideas openly and not sort of impose a certain point of view. So this is important, Sufi theater or non-Sufi theater. And also, theater should be theater, it should be entertaining, it should be colorful, it should be good to look at, good to listen to, and also occasional bit of humor won't harm anything. And we realize that there are so many stories among the Sufis and Sufi teachings and Sufi poetry which are hilarious. So it's just you have to look for them. And also you have to be careful. You are not using the sacred personalities for political goals, but actually your goal and their goal is the same, to create a just society, to create a society which respects human rights, and to create a society which is non-oppressive, a form of religion which is non-oppressive. So this is the kind of theater which we are hoping to develop, which will have a huge popular appeal, which will build bridges within the society, within the region, and with the world, and which is popular and attractive for young people and old men and women. And we get a lot of young people to our plays, and we are surprised to see how quickly they respond to it. In fact, our popular culture is being influenced a lot with Sufi themes and Sufi music. And through that we convey a message, a political, social message of reform, of justice, but at the same time also convey the message that performing arts are not only respected in Islam, but they are an important part of our heritage and our identity. And this is the identity which needs to be strengthened if we have to fight the so-called contrived identity provided by the Taliban, which has nothing to do with your own material reality, which is only based on a certain version of Islam. So if we have to fight them, and if we have to reclaim that space which have been taken by the extremists, the space of spiritual association of people with their religion, which is more cultural, more spiritual, and less based on scriptures, or less based on the certain do's and don'ts of Islam. So I think this is the way, if we have to, through culture, if we have to fight the extremist threat, then Sufi theater can be an important element. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahid, for that fascinating tale of dance and music and pluralism in Pakistan. It's not a story that we living in the West hear too often, and it is such a welcome and refreshing alternative to the headlines that make the news around the world. We now have time for questions from the audience. If you could identify yourself and keep your questions brief. Yes, the gentleman in the middle.
I thoroughly enjoyed this. I was too young to catch the 60s in the United States, but I caught the 70s in Northern California. And I got about 50 things to say. I'll just say a couple. But one is, I don't know if you've ever heard of a rock and roll entrepreneur named Bill Graham. He started two of the most important music venues in the United States in that time, Fillmore East and Fillmore West, one in San Francisco, one in New York City. He was actually born in Nazi Germany. His mother sent him out of the country, and he escaped to the United States at age 7. He ended up in San Francisco, working with an impromptu street theater company in 1965. They went down to Golden Gate Park with no license, and they did an anti-war play. That caught the evening news. That put that play, on the front page around the San Francisco Bay Area. And out of that was born Bill Graham's career as someone like yourself who promotes the arts as a form of really a very progressive social and political expression, which that was the right place and the right time, but that was a turning point. I just thought I'd point that out because that was street theater that really had a huge impact. Again, it was at the right place at the right time. The other thing is I'm from Georgia, and you were talking about devotional music, so I've interviewed a lot of blues artists from down south back in the 80s, and that music comes out of gospel, that is devotional music, comes right into blues, and that's where rock and roll came from. So I just think that a lot of these, I don't know that much about the cultures you're talking about. I'm dying to learn more, and I have many young friends from Pakistan or India. But I do know that Rumi has at times been very popular in the United States, just along the lines you're talking about. Anyway, I guess I just wanted to make those comments, and
Thank you.
that was
Perhaps
great.
you could continue that conversation with Shahid after the talk. Malik has a question, and Fawzia has a question.
Thank you very much. My name is Malik Siraj Akbar. I am the editor-in-chief for the Baloch Hall and a former fellow here at NED. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I'm deeply moved. I wish you were a mufti, and I wish this presentation was a fatwa. More than half of Pakistan's problems will be resolved by now. I have a brief comment which will eventually lead to a question. Most of the time people believe that Pakistan's problems stem from two things. One is Islamic extremism and the other is anti-Indianism. Pakistan is so obsessed with India. And you talked about your experiences of working with the Indians, and because India also has a vibrant Sufi culture as well, and Bollywood is a major influence. Have you tried to work with the Indians? Like, what has been your experience like? Because in Pakistan, it's like there is even people who work in the film industry have been opposed to the Bollywood cinema. They have talked against the influence of Bollywood in Pakistan. What have been your experiences? And how much do you think collaboration between Indian and Pakistani artists can bridge the gap between the two countries and spread the message? Because if you look at Bollywood, most of their shining stars are all Muslims. Whereas in Pakistan, there is this concept consistently pushed forward that Islam does not allow dance or music, which your fatwa or your presentation actually negated. And I wish there were more people like yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, they hate India and they hate film, but they love Shah Rukh Khan and Amir Khan and all the Muslim, Katrina Kaif, etc. So this is the hypocrisy which exists in the well-to-do classes in Pakistan. But our relationship with India, in fact, I mean, our Sufi plays have been sort of extremely popular and well-received in India. And they really created a stir. We were the first group to travel to India after 50 years of closure of borders. And we took this play on the Sufi play on Bulle Shah. And it's just unimaginable the impact it had on the society. I mean, in one city we perform and we go to another city. And about 50 people from the first city will go along with us to see the play again. And I'll just give you the example of the tremendous potential which theater has to really change people's mindsets. That in one village where we performed in Indian Punjab, after the performance ended, an old man came along with his grandson. And he asked the actor who was playing the role of the Sufi, he said that my grandson is not well, so can you blow a blessing on him? So he said, well, Babaji, I'm an actor. I'm not Bulle Shah. So he said, no, I know. He started crying, the old man. He said, if you blow the blessing, if you phook maroge, if you blow the blessing, then he will be all right, I'm sure. So he had to do it. And before going back, the old man said, you are not an actor. You are a reincarnation of Bulle Shah. So look at the role of an actor or theater, to what high level it can take you if you realize how people are looking at you. You can really change their lives. And Bulle Shah is now, the play is like a household name in Indian Punjab. And whenever there is an improvement in relation between India and Punjab, even when we are crossing the border, we cross it on foot. The coolies on the Indian or Pakistani side, they say that this is the kramat, this is the miracle of Bulle Shah, that the visa has been eased or whatever. So we were able to do this play in, if you are aware of the issue of Kashmir, Srinagar, we have performed this play in Srinagar, we have performed this play in Jammu, where the militants, Muslims have come, where the Hindu fanatics have come, where the governor and the chief minister have also come. And in Kerala, the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, the anti-Muslim or anti-Pakistan right-wing party, which might win the next elections. So they came to protest outside that why a Pakistani group is performing. And then we asked them to see the play as well. They came and saw the play, and they have become our best friends. The head of BJP in Kerala is our best friend, and he comes to all our plays whenever we go there. So even these people with these extreme views are able to relate to such plays where the theme is universal and theme is of universal love. So with India, for the last 25 years, we have been doing this kind of work. We are performing there, we have been inviting them to Pakistan, and in fact, this year, from January, we have launched a new program, Theatre for Peace, in which Indian and Pakistani groups will be collaborating and performing both in India and Pakistan, having festivals and seminars, all focused on the theme of peace.
Thank you. We have a number of hands up. Fawzia in the second row.
Human rights activist, and also I have been a fellow here at NED, so it's like coming home. I have a comment. I was going to comment on the India-Pakistan thing, but now I'm commenting on something else. Thank you for an excellent presentation. It was a very complicated subject, and I think you have done you've done justice to the color and the sounds and the music to intertwine that throughout your presentation. I would also say that I have seen several of these plays, and one time I was in Delhi and Ajoka was performing there, and I have seen the crowds outside the theater, and I know the kinds of comments we were getting. It was just amazing. I want to comment about the gender stereotypes that your theater has been able to break, and just a comment to say that women performing, women dancing, women singing, all these areas are very murky areas because they're heavily stigmatized. And these plays not only break those stereotypes, but actually the way they involve the audience and the messages, it has just been magical in the ways they have broken these stereotypes.
Thank you, Fawzia. Okay. The woman in the middle, and then the gentleman on the left.
Good afternoon. My name is Kim Hansen. I work at the Maternal and Child Health Integrated Program. Thank you so much, Shahid, for that presentation. It was incredibly enlightening, and it was amazing to see how impactful that Sufi theater has really been. I imagine that just the crowds themselves are a testament to how popular these ideas are. But I guess I'm curious as to whether Ajoka has made any efforts in the past or present, to sort of measure, maybe even collect feedback from audiences, or kind of measure the ways in which attitudes may be changing based on particular theater topics.
Right, I agree with you. I mean, that's the beauty of theater, that you get your feedback immediately. You don't have to wait for surveys and questionnaires and emails. So immediately you see the feedback. And in fact, I was planning to show you one curtain call for this play on Sufi, play on Dara Shikoh, but we didn't have the time. So it's just unbelievable the way the people respond to each and every word. They don't wait till the end of the play. They give their instant response, like the present day Twitter. So they have their, with their claps and with their comments, and we can't stop them. So we have seen that people are so eager to express themselves, but they don't find any venues where their point of view and their ambitions can be expressed. But we do, we took recordings, we have been interviewing people before and after the play, we have questionnaires, so we try our best. And then there are other ways like press reviews or emails, and sometimes unbelievable people after many years. Like I met a young lady from Pakistan in New York last time I visited this country. And she said that your play changed my life. So one individual, I don't know, she explained that she was at a critical juncture, she had to take certain decision and she didn't know what to do, and she saw a play about women empowerment and suddenly she took a decision. I didn't know about that, but if you can change one life, then I think it is worth it. But I can assure you we change hundreds of lives.
If I could just jump in, by the same token, Shahid, what has been the reaction of the extremist fundamentalist element of society? How have they received your plays? Has there been any sort of backlash on their part?
Well, fortunately, sort of we haven't had any serious attack, but there have been problems. Sometimes they have sent threatening letters. Sometimes they have started campaigns, like every day we receive hundreds of letters sort of warning us, and telephone calls and text messages. All these new technologies better used by them than by the liberal elements in Pakistan. And sometimes our plays have been banned because of pressure from the religious parties and their supporters. So quite a few of our plays have received that kind of problem, or we are not, right now actually, while I was here, I was able to contribute a play to Pakistan about this festival of kite flying, Basant. It's a beautiful, colorful festival, the most secular and most popular festival, especially in Lahore, when on one particular day or one weekend, the whole sky is full of colorful kites and people on the rooftops are competing with each other. And that was banned 6-7 years ago on the ground that it is an un-Islamic practice and also it is dangerous. So I've done a play on that, which is to be performed next month. And now our team is working there. They have to submit the script to the censor authorities. So they're taking out certain references which are considered more bold or more provocative. So they'll submit a self-centered script to the authorities so that it is approved, but we'll obviously perform the full script. So we have to sometimes, like once a play called Burqa Vaganza, in which all actors wear burqas, and it's a political satire, but burqa is used as a dramatic device. So it was banned at the last minute because of the pressure from Jamaat Islami. And we said, okay, fine. The organizers at the PNCA, they said, do another play. So we said, okay, we'll do another play. So we rehearsed another play. And then at the last minute, we just switched the props and the backdrop and did our play Burqa Vaganza, which landed us into some trouble with the Senate and also with the right-wing political militant groups. But anyway, so you have to learn the techniques of how to convey whatever you want to convey and still manage. There is a concept, forgotten the Greek term for it, but it's a Greek concept to be able to write and not getting killed. So that's what we are trying to do.
Okay, we have the gentleman in the middle whose hand has been up for a while, and then behind Marlena.
Thank you. My name is Henry Legue with the Center for International Private Enterprise, one of the NED groups here, and before which I also worked to help facilitate the Kenyan Network of Educational Theater. And you had mentioned a couple things great throughout there about providing theater as a forum for dialogue, conflict resolution, audience involvement, democratic spirit, and being an opportunity for the people to express themselves. I'm wondering where you see that, if you could elaborate on where that happens. Does that happen entirely within the showing of this particular or that particular production and the watching of it? Or are there other mechanisms through the theater after the production for that dialogue and that vocalization? And to bridge off that, there's a two-part question here. How do you keep your plays, because they sound like they're very wildly entertaining, how do you keep them from being escapist, and how do you keep them as being empowering? And then the final part is, are you familiar with the theater of the oppressed and theater for development style, which is a lot heavier on forum style? And if you could speak to where there's overlap, if you've experienced overlap, and where perhaps there are contrasts. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as, we do theater. So basically, the message or the entertainment, whatever we do, it's on stage or in the arena. So it doesn't have to be a theater hall all the time. We go and perform in the open also, sometimes in the round. And usually, almost always, it is followed by a discussion, some kind of discussion. Even if it is not structured, people will stay back and they will have questions, they will have objections, they will have appreciation, whatever. And it's very heartening to see this kind of interaction, which would not happen if you see a film or a painting exhibition. There you don't have this kind of action. But theater kind of generates this animation among the audience also. So, and then usually we have brochures which we distribute. Sometimes we have some leaflets people have to sign. So there are different ways of engaging the audience. And sometimes we have workshops and seminars also, followed by or before the play. Regarding the nature of theater or escapism, so, we don't provide catharsis. So, we don't give any answer, and we are more influenced, you can say, with the Brechtian model. So, we engage, we sort of provoke people to think, and we don't give them cut and dried answers, but we make them think, and we challenge them. We pose questions, we present contradictions. And I think this has worked because we as a theater group anyway, we don't have a political agenda. We are not associated with any political party. Sometimes we do interactive work also. So some of our plays have interactive element where our audience will, our actors will actually engage with the audience and question them and get a response from them. And sometimes there is we present different endings and ask the audience to decide which ending is more acceptable, like our play on honor killing. So at the end, there are a boy and a girl who want to marry, and the family and the community is after them to kill them, and they decide to run away. So we present the audience with two options: either they run away or they stay back. So we had a play at the village of Mukhtara Mai, the famous icon who was gang raped, and then she decided to fight it out. And we performed a play right in her village in front of a mixed audience about honor killing, where it led to some very interesting discussion afterwards. So we believe that audience they are an important part of the performance. And performance is not complete just by completing the script or completing the show, but the audience response is equally important. And in fact, our actors are usually, a lot of their performance quality also dependent on the response you get from the audience. That is the beauty of theater.
Thank you, Shahid. So perhaps we could take a few questions since we have only a few minutes left. So the gentleman in green, the gentleman in the suit to the right, and then behind Marlena.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Asif Majid. I'm a master's student at Georgetown studying conflict resolution, specifically focusing on the performing arts as a peace building practice. This is right up my alley. So going off of the question that just came here about to what degree you use forum theater and to what degree you focus on sort of you mentioned focusing on the Brechtian approach. Is this something, this is sort of a two-part question. First off, is this something that has been a traditional part of Ajoka going all the way back to the founding, or is this something that has kind of been recently added into the model? And specifically, how do you make the determination in a particular performance or in a particular, setting or wherever the case might be, to figure out what elements of those types of things that you're talking about, like letting the audience choose the ending or having a question and answer in the middle of your show. How do you choose what elements you're going to engage with in a particular performance?
Right. Well,
maybe we could take a couple more,
right, okay.
if that's okay. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Paul Smith. I'm director of the British Council here in the USA. And thank you, Shahid, for a wonderful exposition of the amazing work we know you do. I was just wondering if you could elaborate just a little bit more on how you stretch the audience in Pakistan. In other words, how are you able to get beyond the obvious urban centers, presumably like Lahore and Islamabad, maybe to those parts of Pakistan, rural areas, maybe the geographical peripheries, where you would have to engineer audiences who are really not used to or expecting to go to the theatre, and certainly not to have an experience like this. How do you actually reach those people in Pakistan who might be most challenged by the experience they're about to have?
Thank you. And then we had a question at the back.
Hi, my name is Yunus Chaudhry, and I'm an Atlas Core Fellow serving in DC. I'm from Pakistan, and thank you very much for the talk. In Pakistan, I'm also a budding theater activist, and I'm associated with Lal Theater, and I hope to speak to you about it later as well. My question is that recently, in a sort of trip to Berlin, I got introduced to the idea of theater pedagogy, where a lot of groups tend to engage with their audience before and after the play. So I'm just wondering, has there been a concerted effort on the part of Ajoka to do the same in Pakistan? Because there are, somebody also mentioned earlier that you can also measure people and sort of get them more attuned to the performance beforehand. So I'm just wondering if Ajoka has experimented with the idea or not.
Thank you. This sort of relates to the first question, so if you want to tackle both together.
Right. So, I'm not sure what exactly the first question was. If you
Whether the themes are new or are they a departure?
Right, okay. Right. Well, actually, all these questions are related to audience. Paul's question also, in a way, was related. You see, firstly, we are not embedded or committed to a certain form of theater. We basically, we want to engage our audience through a socially meaningful theater, raise issues, but at the same time, give them good entertainment, which is aesthetic in form and also which is, according to their culture, something which they would enjoy. So it depends. There are plays in which we want to interact with them more actively, like a play on blasphemy law, Dekh Tamasha Chalta Ban. There we do engage with them throughout the play, because the play is about audience and about a show, and the whole show which is going on in the society. So there we do involve the audience right from the beginning. Then in the play on honor killing, as I said, there we leave it sometimes to the audience. There was a play which actually, next week we are having a play reading in New York called Bari. It's about women in prison. So there also, we had like two options. A woman activist goes to prison and she learns more about the condition of women in society and how they are criminalized and they end up in prison. And there she had certain comments which were critical of the women's movement, which was more elitist at that time. And so we had two options. Either she makes her comment at the end or not. So, and there are some other ways, like in one play called The Dead Dog, at the end of the play, there is a dog and dead dog, and they are getting the stench, and no one knows where it's coming from. And in the end, the mullah of the nearby mosque comes with incense sticks, and he gives them to all the members of the caste, and saying that don't worry about the source of the stench, but just mind your own nose. And then they go into the audience and they distribute the incense sticks, and then all the lights are focused on the audience. So suddenly audience realize that they are a part of this show, and they are also being given some sort of half-baked solution or some misguided solution by the mullah. So it depends in different situations. We want to engage the audience one way or the other, sometimes directly addressing them, sometimes just going in them, or sometimes performing in the round. And these are not things which we discovered later. Right from the beginning, our theater has been committed to this kind of interactive theater. And Brechtian theater model actually was borrowed from the Orient, from India and China and Japan. So the use of alienation techniques or interactivity with the audience is something which and the use of live music. Our audience as well as our actors are quite used to it. So this is something which we have believed in right from the beginning. Now, regarding the stretching of the audience, obviously theater has certain limitations, but we do our best to reach out. We go to small towns, we go to villages, but we have to be invited. There has to be a local, we are not a part of a movement or a political party, we are just one group. So if we are invited by non-profit NGOs or by trade unions or by community organizations, we go and perform, and we make it sure that before and after people are sensitized with the issue and with the kind of theater which we are bringing, so that it's not a shock for them and they miss out on some of the important elements. So we try to create pre-performance and post-performance debate wherever we can, but we have limitations. We do our best. Sometimes we invite audience from community areas in buses, and they come and perform. Sometimes from tribal areas or from Pakhtunkhwa areas, we have NGOs bringing them in buses to Islamabad. And in some cases, they have been stopped because they all look like Taliban with their caps and with their beards. And going there in buses, entering Islamabad is suddenly the security agencies get alert. But then stereotyped aside, you find them such a wonderful audience with such beautiful comments and debate after the play. So we make an effort, but we have limitations.
We've sort of run out of time, but I want to give the woman in the second row an opportunity to ask her question, and then we will wrap up. So go ahead, if you could also introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Tahira Noor. I'm a Fulbright Humphrey Fellow in the University of Maryland. I've been activist and my mentor sitting next to me. And we have been working in Pakistan and on activism and reclaiming the space that we have lost to the extremists. My question is, despite being the message of Sufi culture, despite being this message of peace, harmony, love, how come the Arab message got its space in Pakistan? Where did you fail? Who failed and where?
How did the extremist and violent narrative overtake the peaceful and non-violent narrative?
Well, I think I'll just give you an example of the Indus Valley civilization. 5,000 years ago, it was most advanced. And if you look at the ruins and you go to the museums, you'll realize how culturally advanced they were. Like the dancing girl of Mohenjo-daro is still the icon of performing arts and dance and human spirit. But they were a peaceful nation, and we still don't know how did they disappear. So I think Sufism, precisely because they are people of peace, they don't have guns, and they don't have fanaticism, they don't brainwash people, they just free people, even free from the hold of scriptures or God or prophets and of the mullah and qazi. So that is one reason that it's not a structured and politically motivated network. And secondly, I think it was the ruling classes of Pakistan who, as I said in the beginning, who thought that they'll get away, they'll use the name of Islam for immediate political gains, and they will get away with it. So they allowed Pakistan's ideology to be based on religion, and the state having its own religion. And then obviously our friends, we are still economically very weak country, ethnically very divided country. And friends, and who needs enemies if we have friends like Saudi Arabia or to some extent US. So when they supported Mujahideen to fight against the Soviets. And once the Soviet had gone, they left all the fighters with their weapons and with their money, and Pakistani society totally infested with these fighters who had just tasted blood and didn't know now where to go for the killing. So I think that was a major factor. But in the end, I would still say that yes, the civil society and the secular political forces did fail the people of Pakistan. Thank you.
Shahid, I want to thank you for a fascinating presentation. I know the audience joins me in wishing you all the best as you return home to celebrate another 30 years of peace and pluralism through the performing arts in Pakistan. Thank you.
And I just want to thank Xerxes, Sally, and our colleagues at the NED, Sarah Amin especially, and other friends, Jessica, Ashley, and Hillary, Carl, and others. So it has been a tremendous experience to be able to interact with other fellows and with the NED people and with the think tank community. So that made me think a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Well.